Digby currently, idling at just above, kind of around 2,000 RPMs. Trying to get the engine to warm up. Not really sure why. Just Master Kent said, warm up Digby.
So Joel, look, I've considered your request to own Digby. I've thought about it, and I'm thinking, why do you want to own a 300 turbo diesel anyway? Okay, why?
Well, Digby's a little nostalgic because I do remember Digby from when you brought it home, and I was probably 13 or 14 years old. And ever since then, growing up, we've always had turbo diesels in the family, and so I think there's a lot that I remember from when I owned my first 114 chassis, and we did the whole engine transplant and stuff. And I think I've always been kind of eyeing, different models of, old Mercedes, and I think the people have spoken that they don't want Digby to go to the junkyard.
That's right.
So I think this kind of is ultimately going to become our best opportunity, I think, for a really fun project. And
that's cool.
Put some effort into something.
Yeah, I had to laugh about some of the comments. One of the ones I really like, and two people said this. They said, now they understand why Digby came back home after 20 years. He just doesn't want to die. And after the videos you've watched and what we've been doing with this thing, there's some real potential here. There's no guarantee because it's an old car. But I think, Joel, if you're willing to do the sweat equity, because I don't have the time right now to take on another project. Even though Digby's kind of running okay, there's lots of things that need fixing. And I think you're in a situation where you can do those, okay? Yep. You're willing to do that? Okay, you're willing to roll up your sleeves, little sweat equity?
Yep.
Okay, so the first thing we have to do is you got to pull the tires off. They're brand new tires. You know why they have to come off?
I think it was a little deal with the owner.
That's right. The owner says, okay, I'll give you the car, but I keep the tires and wheels. So the owner's coming back up here next week to pick up those tires and wheels. So we pull some other tires and wheels off another car, and I'm going to have Joel put them on, not me. You're going to do it, right? Okay. Roll up your sleeves. Let's get started.
Step one.
Okay, Joel, let's start with the front tire and wheel. I know you've done this before in years past, but just to review, the first thing I want to talk about is safety. You've got the floor jack there and the jack stand there, and as I tell people, you never trust just one thing when you're working on a car. If you're going to use a jack stand, have a floor jack backup. If you're going to use a floor jack, have a jack stand backup. Now, I've told you where to roll that jack. You can roll it right into the subframe, and now go ahead and start jacking it up. And you did get the emergency brake on, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so the wheel is off the ground and spinning. Now you need to position this jack stand. Where are you going to put that?
Well, the problem is the floor jack is currently in the way and underneath the frame where we would.
Yeah.
But luckily for Mercedes, they had put in this little handy hole.
Yeah, that's for the factory jack. Okay, and show them what I've come up with. Okay, go ahead and put that bolt in. So you're going to put the bolt in that jack point and jack it up a little bit further. Okay, now we're watch Joel. I think he knows now. He's just going to lower it down just so it's on the jack stand, but we're going to leave the jack in place. Okay, now you can get the air wrench and remove the tire. And Joel, I do this anytime I get a tire off. Just give that rotor and brake pads an inspection. Man, look at that. That looks like a brand new rotor, doesn't it? There's not even any lip here. Look at the shock absorber. It looks like that Bilstein's been replaced. Even this upper ball joint looks like it may have been replaced. That's a real encouragement. But I want to show you this tool that we sell on the website. You know what that's for?
I do.
Okay.
But I think it's for holding the tire up, because ultimately when you're using these tires, they get a little hard to juggle and stuff. So what this does is you slide it in here, and it gives you an anchor point that you can hang the tire on and then get the lug bolts started on the other side.
That's right. You don't have to use your foot.
Right.
Okay, so before we put the tire on, there's one more thing I recommend you do, and you do that every time you remove and replace a wheel.
What's that?
You don't know? We're going to put anise compound on here. A little bit right in here and a little bit right in here. So the next time, or whoever has to pull that wheel off, if there's any problem with corrosion, it's not going to be hard to get off. I'll go grab the antifreeze right now.
All right, perfect.
All right, there's your little bottle of anise. Go ahead and apply it. Remember, when you're using anise, you just need a very small amount. And you want to make sure you don't get it in the lug bolt holes. We're going to just put it right around the base of that hub. So Joel, remember when you're putting this on, just very small amount. Be very careful, don't get it in the lug bolt holes. You're going to put it on that outer flange. That's right. And then just a very small coat on the inner flange. Make sure that's all smoothed out there. And this is amazing. You have a wheel on for 5 years, it's all rusty and corroded, and it just comes right off when you use anise.
These lug nuts are pretty crummy, so we're going to replace them with the better ones.
All right. Now you're going to remember years ago when you used this how easy it is to get a wheel on and the bolt started. You just slide it on that alignment pin, and then you can get the bolts started. So what's the next thing you're going to do?
Well, after I get a few started by hand, I'm going to check the air wrench and make sure that my torque setting isn't too high, because you never want to over torque your lug bolts going in your wheels. Otherwise, they're going to get stuck. And also, as I learned earlier, when getting these wheels off, you want to make sure you're using the right lug bolt size for your alloys, because I ended up putting the long lug bolts into the short steel version ones and almost locked up the e-brake of a different Mercedes. So remember, correct lug bolts, don't over torque.
Okay, and you're going to snug them up and lower it down, and then we'll use a real torque wrench. Okay, I think you remember what I told you about torque wrench. Can you explain what you're doing here?
Well, we want to make sure that when we are doing our final tighten for the lug nuts, that you're doing it at the proper torque. And so we set up our wrench, our specialty torque wrench here, to the proper torque. And what we're going to do is basically just go around and give each lug nut a quick test and kind of push down slowly, because when you're torquing, you don't want to wrench it, because it's not able to allow the wrench to actually detect the pressure that you're giving. So then you're going to go slowly and wait till it pops once, hesitate, let it snap back, and then pull it off, like so.
Excellent.
Wait for that first click, nice and slow. This is why it's really important not to over tighten it with the gun, because you can see that each one of these with the proper torque setting on the gun got it so it's just a nice gentle torque. I don't have to sit here and ratchet too much. I'm not sitting there going and trying to deal with something that's way too tight. So.
All right, excellent. Good work.
So my dad ran off to go work on some other car projects, so I'm going to finish the tire swap here on Digby. The rear end is a little different than the front end for jacking up. We can get the jack under the rear differential down there, and I'm going to show you how to do that, and then I'm going to show you how you put the jack stands on both the jack points on the rear side so that you're safely secure for when you're trying to do a tire swap on these 123s. Okay, so I got my jack back here. I'm going to get it underneath the car. I'm going to find the center of the rear differential, and I'm going to get it right underneath there. Start jacking up a little bit to make sure that I'm in the right spot. So as I proceed to jack up, just like my dad mentioned before, you don't necessarily, you want to be redundant with the safety here. You don't ever want to trust a hydraulic jack. You never know when those are going to fail. And you don't want to trust just a stand, because if the car were to fall on you and on your stand only, well, how are you going to jack the car back up to get it off you? So, 2 is better than 1. We're going to jack up here, then we're going to go around and we're going to get our jack stands up on the side. I'll show you that from a closer angle. Okay, so we're still jacking up. Get the car high enough. And once we get to this point, we can come over to the side here. We can position the jack stand under these nice jack points in the rear of the car. We're going to put one of these on each side of the car, lower down just a little bit, but we're going to keep our jack under the rear stand, and we should be good to go. Okay, we're going to get down here. We're going to lower this down until we're on the jack points, nice and slow. Okay, and then lock back down on the jack so it's nice and secure on all 3 points. All right, let's swap out the rest of the tires.
So you can see that Joel's finished that tire and wheel change. Can you believe it? Look at how nice Digby looks now with newly painted alloy wheels and Michelin tires. I have to admit I had to rob these off one of my other cars. We've got those other tires and wheels over there for the previous owner. She's going to come up and pick those up next week. But Joel knows, don't forget, you get your car back on the ground after changing any type of tire or wheel, you go around and double check your torques. Well, I think I'm impressed, Joel. You did good. You still want to take on Digby?
Oh yeah.
Okay. What do you guys think? You think Joel can carry the torch to save Digby? Well, the next thing he's going to have to do, and some of you have done this job, you're going to chuckle and say, all right, that'll be his graduation job. But we got to get in there and change that oil filter housing and get an oil pressure gauge in this car. Ready to do it?
Ready.